Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about a part of conditional access policy, which is a continuous access evaluation, right? And this is something more over into the adaptive session lifetime policies, right? And this feature has been made as general availability for the conditional access policies. And this was into the public preview recently, and Microsoft has made that available for the customers, right? And now this feature is something which is for re-authentication, right? So when we wanted to enforce, require or enforcement of re-authentication every time. So the feature name is called as every time, right? Now you might be wondering where we wanted to use this feature or what are the different use cases and why should we use it, right? So there are so many different use cases where this feature capability is going to be used, right? And this feature has to offer a lot in order to provide access to the applications as well as on the devices. And there are business critical applications where those applications are holding sensitive data, right? Even on the virtual private network as well as network as a service, when you are using network from different providers, right? As an as network as a service, right? And on the securing privileged access roles as well, right? So even in that situation also, we wanted to re-authenticate or ask those users to re-authenticate themselves when they are trying to onboard or when they are trying to activate any of those roles using PIM, right? Then other scenarios including sign in for Azure virtual desktop machines, because those are into the cloud, but still we wanted to make sure people are using or people are re-authenticated when they are trying to access those machines and those devices from the cloud every time, because it could be the situation where someone is trying to access because of password attack or something like that, right? And then if someone gets the access to the passwords and credentials, they may try to access and replay the attacks, right? And that is why this is something we should definitely be enforcing it across the identities. The next use case or scenario is protecting risky users and risky sign-in users to identify those identities, and that's a part of Entra ID protection, right? So where we would be enforcing risky identity, risky users, and risky sign-ins on the user accounts, and it is going to evaluate the or continuously evaluation, as it's a part of continuous evaluation. It's going to simply enforce the continuous evaluation on those identities, and it's going to make sure let user has to re-authenticate again and again and every time that they are going to sign in. So in basically it's going to ask or re-authenticate with a fresh token to access that workload or that resources on the devices side, right? And the next one is, here we can ask or make sure securing sensitive user actions like enrollment of the user accounts, where we wanted to make sure there is no replay attack of the tokens and tokens are safe and secure, and every time user is asked to enter the credentials and user has to provide the details and get into the system, right? Otherwise it should not be the case where user is logged in but maybe user's credentials were theft and then replaying the kind of attacks, right? So that is what I'm going to show you in this video. So these were the different use cases and scenarios where we can go ahead and do that, right? So let me start it here. Just a minute, quickly. All right, I think there was a disturbance. Okay, so let me share my screen quickly here and I will show you how we can create that policy, and we'll talk more on that as well, right? Where we have seen an option for sign-in frequency before, right? And sign-in frequency is one of the capability that is going to be used in those scenarios where we wanted to uh, increase the frequency or set it on continuous a particular duration, maybe every 30 minutes or every 5-10 minutes, or maybe we can set it to every 4 hours, because if we do that, that means users are going to complain saying that, okay, why I'm being asked every time to re-authenticate or re-log into the applications again and again, and that's going to be definitely be breaking user experience. But still, when there is an application which is holding sensitive data, sensitive customs, applications and everything together, that means we have to make sure, or we got to cover it from the all different types of attacks, right? And that is why user has to re-authenticate and make use of it. So even this feature, every time feature has its pros and cons, because cons is going to be something like maybe the organization is not ready to adopt that one because they don't want user experience to be hampered, like every time user has to get into the system and re-log in again, right? And when there is a confidential system like financial system or banking systems, definitely this is something which has to be tied up with this capability or these features, and then definitely user has to re-authenticate it every time. So there is no excuses, and this is a really great feature from the security point of view. And it's not something, or there is no pros and cons really, but definitely it is something the organizations how it did how they look at it and how they wanted to take it further, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So let me share my screen quickly here, and I will simply show you that one. And to start with, we'll create a policy, and that policy is going to be enabled, right? So it's going to be pretty straightforward, right? So there's nothing much here, but definitely this is a new capability, so everyone should be aware and they should be using it for many different scenarios. As I said, on the different use cases, different scenarios, when we have sensitive data to protect it and user has to re-authenticate again. All right. So we are on Entra portal here, and from Entra portal, we have to go to conditional access, as it's a conditional access policy. And this policy is going to be enforcing that every time a re-authentication, right? And we are going to set it up. And it's one of the capability which is very important and a great way to make sure user has to re-authenticate. And earlier it was in public preview. Maybe people and customers or organizations or companies have not used it, but this has made available and it's currently generally available. That means companies would definitely be using it, and majorly those organizations, financial insurance and all the companies where they have the confidential data to manage and make sure people are enforcing and people are re-authenticate themselves during accessing it every time. So let's go ahead and create one policy, and I'll show you how we can do that. All right, so let's go ahead and click create policies. So I'll give it a name, CA as in conditional access policy, or we can give it name as a CAP as well, called as CAP, conditional access policy, and I will give it name something like this, required re-authentication every time. So this feature is named as every time. So we can give it something like this, or maybe we can give it something like this, right? And from user section, we can target either all users or specific group. So that's something we can decide. And as per needs, definitely we can go ahead and make the changes as and when needed and as per requirement. And also exclude that account as well. Also, while excluding or while creating this policy and deploying it across in real time, that means we have to exclude certain number of accounts, which includes the service accounts as well as emergency accounts and all other those kind of accounts where we don't want this policy to be impacting that side of business or that side of work, right? Otherwise, it's going to hit the user flows and whatever was configured already, and that's going to be breaking out the integrations as well. So we should exclude those as well. On the target resources, we can select either all target resources, or maybe if you wanted to set on the user action side or authentication context, we can set that as well, and then we should be able to do that as well. So for now, I'm going to select all resources because I would wanted to make sure every time, right? Or I can select none because I'm going to simply create this and test it, but I'm not going to deploy it for the whole or kind of production site, right? On the network side, definitely we have a set of capabilities here on any network and locations, trusted and compliant network, or select any specific location and network that we have whitelisted or allowed, right? So this is going to be, let's say we wanted to set these capabilities, we can select, and if not, then we can select any one. So any network which is coming from in and out, and be it virtual or be it corporate network or unmanaged network, then that is also part of this one. On the conditions, as usual, we can select any conditions which is going to match for our needs and requirement, and whatever we are looking to target through this policy, and then we should be good here too. On the access or on the controls, we should definitely push multi-factor authentication and then other required options as well, and select the one of the selected controls here, and that should be enough. And the main capability, which is every time, is under sessions here, right? So that is going to be here under the sign-in frequency, and you need to select either periodic reauthentication or every time, right? So this is something, once you select it, that means everything is going to be selected, which is part of this policy, or majorly the applications and groups, and be it devices, users, and applications, whichever is a part of this policy, those will be scoped in this policy and is going to be deployed. So now you don't see the option, or you don't get any options to change it, right? Every time, that means whenever I'm trying to log into the any of the applications, be it application which is SSO wired up with Entra ID, or any application which is going to be used with the part of integrations with Microsoft 365 and Entra ID, right? So that application is going to be enforced this policy, and then user has to grant access and provide authentication, and then it's going to ask every time. But in the previous option where we see periodic authentication, that means we get to choose whether we wanted to put number of days or hours or whatever it is. Let's say I wanted to put it for maybe every 4 hours. So I can select those 4 hours and I can deploy it. But if I don't want that on the hours, instead I would put on a days. Let's say every 7 days, I wanted users to re-authenticate themselves on each and every applications, whichever or whatever they are using for business and for their work. Those applications should be re-authenticated, right? And for sensitive applications and sensitive data systems where we wanted users to re-authenticate every time, that means this option or this feature is going to be go-to feature or go-to capability that's going to be used, and that's going to save a lot of things from in order to protect the identities and systems and data and everything together, right? So this is the capability, and let's see if I have selected it for now. Sign in frequency and set it to every time and select it. So once we select that means we have that capability here, and our policy is ready. That means we can go ahead and create this policy. So now once this policy is created, we can go ahead and maybe just go back and open it up, as everything is already set up. So we don't need to make any changes. And whenever we are ready to make sure turn it on, then we would be able to see what is happening or what's going on, right? So before making this policy broader or across the organization, or maybe particular group or departments or business units or something like that, definitely it is always recommended to test the policies and see the behavior, how it works, what is expected, what is not expected, and then we can report back it to the Microsoft if there is unexpected behavior or the policy itself is not working as expected, right? So that's the one of the way to make sure policy is working and tested and giving the appropriate expected results, right? So yeah, that is what I wanted to show you and talk about, as I showed you how we can create the policy and how this policy is going to help us and make sure systems and apps and data is secure by enforcing re-authentication on the user identities and those sensitive business systems and applications. And it's going to always be a proactive step to make sure systems and data always safe and secure from the wrong hands, right? So yeah, that's all for this video I wanted to show you and talk about, and hope you will like it, understand it, and enjoy the learning, right? Also, do share this video with your friends and colleagues and watch other videos around Microsoft 365, Entra ID, Azure, and FinOps. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that you get to see many new videos every time, right? So I'll be posting much many more videos, and those will be delivered to you, or you can see those in first place, right? So yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.